Hi, this is Rose. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Let's talk about Michael Jackson. I watched Leaving Neverland on Sunday and Monday night, and Oprah's After Neverland on Monday night, and I was left with some really uncomfortable feelings. I needed a couple days to process it because it brought up a lot of feelings about my own abuse and my thoughts on abuse. First of all, I wanted to congratulate the guys for coming out like they did and for putting themselves at risk like they're doing. And also, Oprah, I really think that that was courageous, and I commend everyone involved in that documentary. This has been going on a long, long time and needs to come out into the open. And I think we all agree. If you're a fan, I respect your position. That's fine. I understand Michael Jackson, was basically the soundtrack of your life. He was also the soundtrack of my life. So watching Leaving Neverland, I noticed there was a lot of similarities with other abuse survivors and the progression of their coming to terms with what happened to them and when it happened and protecting Michael Jackson. Many abuse survivors protect their abuser until death. So it is not that unusual. This is not unusual at all. There are people, who have parents that severely abuse them, and they still protect them until they die. So that is, the nature of the abuse and the abuser relationship. So I'm not surprised that they waited as long as they did. I see what happened. They started to become depressed in their 20s and 30s and couldn't figure out why. And basically both had nervous breakdowns. They needed to deal with what was going on internally or explode internally. So that means going down, the road of depression, turning to drugs and alcohol, or whatever, the case is when you don't deal with your emotions and your past. So I was really surprised after the Leaving Neverland aired, because I went online and I started reading comments, I started reading tweets, and I was shocked at how many people supported Michael Jackson. I was under the assumption that everybody knew about Michael Jackson, and for whatever reason, he had got away with it, and he had some diehard fans. I did not know that the fans would go to this level of protection. I didn't know that they would send Oprah Winfrey and the survivors death threats. I didn't know that that their world would be this shaken by this. So I found that kind of interesting. The idolization of the superstar is kind of a reflection of our society these days. People look to stars to sort of as hope, and we used to look to God and our parents and other, as celestial beings, but now we look to superstars like Michael Jackson, R. Kelly, Madonna, Lady Gaga, Beyonce. So when our views of that particular superstar, our idol, are challenged, it becomes very conflicting internally. It becomes really conflicting, and I understand that. So even though I understand that, the problem is they can get away with anything. They can do no wrong in the eyes of their fans and supporters. We become non-negotiable in a conversation about what might or might have happened at Neverland and, in Michael Jackson's life. I think it's very challenging because it requires us to take a look at ourselves and say, hey, what if Michael Jackson did abuse these kids? What if he abused these kids for the entire time that he was a superstar? So I'm going to go over the excuses that I've seen. Michael Jackson never had a childhood. He was, made to work as a entertainer when he was a kid. You know what? There are kids that are child soldiers that spend their entire childhoods in war, in wartime conditions. And those kids turn into adults and they do not have amusement parks in their backyard and want to hang around with little boys all day long. That's just no excuse. Okay? None. There are also kids that are abused, severely abused sexually, physically, extorted, all kinds of stuff, horrible stuff. You know what? They don't turn into abusers. They never touch little kids, and nor would they think of it. It is insulting to abuse survivors that Michael Jackson had the license to sleep with little boys because he was abused or because he missed out on his childhood. That is bullshit. I believe that Michael Jackson has created his entire persona, which means his weirdo persona, his feel sorry for me persona, his victim persona, his I'm special persona, his I'm a poor man that never got a childhood persona, his I love kids persona, for the sole purpose of abusing children. I believe that everyone involved, whether he molested them or not, was part of the narrative. So he could get away with abusing children. So there might be many kids out there who are now adults who were not abused by Michael Jackson. I believe that Michael Jackson knew exactly what he was doing, that he orchestrated everything so he could have decoys in his life. So like people who say they weren't molested, like Corey Feldman, would have been a decoy. So I honestly think he used Corey Feldman. I really do. There are people out there right now, talk show hosts, respectable people actually protecting Michael Jackson, which to me is really, really inappropriate at this time because we don't know the truth and we probably never will. Although I'm sure many, many boys, men are going to come out since this happened. I truly believe that there is going to be a bunch of people coming out. I hope so. I really do. And I truly believe that there were and are many, many, many men and boys out there that were either paid off that we never knew about or that never came forward. And, because they were too afraid. And what were they afraid of? They were afraid of Michael Jackson's fans, his supporters that are actually out there making death threats. I don't blame them for being afraid. I wouldn't come forward either. They were also afraid of tarnishing that image. That what they didn't want to be the one that exposes Michael, the shining light and says, "Oh my God, the shining light is dirty. It's broken. It's sick." And we're all being fooled. Nobody wants to be that person. No one wants to be the person exposing that. You talk to anyone, any family member that has been abused, it breaks your family. So we're talking a really small scale here. Let's say we have 4 sisters and brothers. One of them gets abused. Later in life, they say, hey, so-and-so abused me. The family falls apart. It destroys families. Imagine what that would do on a bigger scale. And in the case of Michael Jackson, his legacy, his star, imagine what that's going to do to his star. Do you want to be that person? No, I wouldn't want to be that person. It takes a lot of courage. And the fact that these people are being attacked is beyond me. It's like, whoa. Even if you don't believe Michael Jackson is guilty, give these people a chance. Let them say what they need to say. The attack on the survivors is a clear message. Keep your mouth shut. We don't want to know the truth. We don't want to be challenged. Why? Why do you think it's your job to protect Michael Jackson? Most survivors of abuse do not abuse other people. Most survivors of abuse end up staying abused for a good duration of their life until they have some sort of epiphany. What happens to survivors of abuse is they're attracted to people that sort of keep them in abuse situations. And that is the nature of it. You take this with you throughout your whole life. Either you start self-destructing or you find somebody else to destruct you for you. And then one day you have an awakening or an epiphany or something happens and you're like, well, I got to do something about this. And that's what happened to these men. That's what happened. That's when they came forward. I need to do something about this. Yeah, they're in their 30s. Yeah, guess what? People wait until they're 50. Most people die without ever telling anyone that the pastor abused them or their father abused them or their brother or whoever. They never tell anyone. Michael Jackson is a destroyer of life. Period. So what is it going to take for us to go, hey, maybe Michael Jackson's a sexual predator? What is it going to take? And the funny thing is once you start asking yourself that, you have to ask yourself a lot of things. You have to go, why? You have to say, why was I so blind? What is it that, what is it in my life that I can't look at? Because if you're not looking at the possibility of Michael Jackson being a child molester, then there's a lot of other things you're not looking at. You'd have to ask yourself, where are all my other blind spots? What else am I not seeing? If I admit that this might be true, what does that uncover for me? Why do I think it's necessary to keep this construction going? How is that keeping me together? I think these are really important questions to ask ourselves, whether or not he's guilty. And I understand it's okay to have an opinion. I have an opinion, you can have an opinion, but to go and attack the people that are coming forward is beyond me. I just don't understand that. We need to step back and let other people speak their truth without jumping down their throat and calling them a liar. I think for many people, Michael Jackson represented something good in life, like something innocent, something fun, like he was almost like a humanized version of Disney. And I think that is, it's powerful. It really is. So let me know what you think of Michael Jackson and the allegations against him by as portrayed in the documentary Leaving Neverland. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you do. It was very, very powerful, but I do caution that you should be careful. It is very, very upsetting, especially if you have children or are, especially if you're anyone on this planet, okay? I mean, it's upsetting. It really is. So thanks for listening. I know this was more of a serious topic, but